What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So as you have seen in the previous video, my car ran a 9.5 at 148 miles an hour. So I just wanted to upload a video where that was actually the title, because I actually made the title something else for that video. So I decided to make this video that title. And so I guess now the goal for the car is just to keep going lower in the nines. And I've got a lot of things to figure out. I think my biggest hurdle right now is trying to find better air, and then also trying to cut the 60 foot down. I've seen cars with very similar setups to mine cut mid to high 1.3s. So I need to kind of figure out where the launch needs to be, where the tire pressure needs to be, and honestly the track just needs to be there. I need to find a track where it's gonna be sticky enough where I can actually cut a 1.3. Now other cars don't have problems cutting 1.3s. They can cut way lower than 1.3s. But on a Hellcat, mostly the very low, or even the very low 9-second cars, or the very high 8-second cars, they're in the 1.3s, some of them even in the high 1.2s. The only difference they have that I don't have yet is the guys have adjustable control arms in the back and a little bit bigger tire, but I really want to stay on the 275. I've seen people cut 1.3s on the 275, so I know it's possible. So I do need to get some adjustable control arms for the back so that we can set up the rear specifically for a drag setup and enable me to cut 1.3s. Now, if you guys are wondering what's so hard about cutting a 1.3, well, the IRS suspension is what makes it kind of hard to cut 1.3s. It's not very common that you're cutting 1.3s on IRS with as heavy of a car as the Hellcat is. So if you want more information on that, just look it up. But IRS suspension is hard to cut good 60 foots, and it's definitely hard to cut when the car is as heavy as a Hellcat is. So really the goal is to keep going lower in the nines, and we really need to find a better track, go to some better air, and I really need to dial the car in, and I really need to spend some time at the track and really dial the setup in, because the problem is when I just went to Oklahoma is that I couldn't get any clean passes in, and the one time I get a clean pass in, I essentially was kicked out after that. So it's really hard to make adjustments and really figure out where the car needs to leave from when you're getting kicked out on the only clean pass you make. So I am looking into putting a roll cage in the car. However, I'm trying to put that off as long as possible because it kind of takes away from the street car. Now there's lots of street cars that run roll cages, but if you're ridden in a car with an actual 6-point or 8-point roll cage, it kind of gets in the way, and it's kind of annoying. And I don't know, it kind of takes away that whole vibe of the street car. The car will still have full interior, but it just doesn't feel like a street car when it's got a roll cage in it. It's kind of like the next stepping stone that we have to get to. But the car does need to be safe. I need to be safe, and I'm not going to be able to run at any big NHRA tracks, which is where I'll get the best traction unless I have the correct safety equipment. So I've got to look into the cage thing. I need to look into some adjustable control arms, probably something from like BMR, someone like that, or AAD Performance, which are Hellcat specific. And yeah, so just keep pretty much chipping away at this 9, try and keep going lower 9s, and keep having fun with the car. Obviously we're running out of time, not running out of time, but the season is coming to a close within the next 2 months. So we'll see what we can do before then. Little update, we do have our list race coming up October 13th, if anyone's interested. Now this one is going to be a tricky one, especially for me, because it is a 8th mile, which I knew it was going to be 8th mile, but it's 8th mile, no prep, heads up racing with a flashlight start. So we're able to use pimp juice. The only problem is I've never used it. I've never used it on my car. I've never used it on any car. So really going to look to Joseph for some help with the pimp juice and how much to use and what kind of burnout to do, because I really don't know anything about it. I've never used it. And the flashlight start will be interesting because I've never done one of those before either. So I may get bumped down a few spots on the list race, but that's okay because it's for fun. But at least we're able to run again before the season, or before the weather hits. I don't know if we're going to be able to run at the track here in Amarillo again, as they're technically already shut down. However, they are opening up for this list race. So if you guys are in town or want to come into town, October 13th, we're having our list race, and should be a lot of fun there. So right now I'm actually on my way to the dealership because the last black badge for the Ram has come in. It's the 4x4 one on the right side of the tailgate. I decided to keep that one because I paid for the 4x4, so might as well just have the stupid black badge that matches it, right? So I bought that one. I'm headed to the dealership right now to actually pick that badge up. And then when I get back to the house, I'm going to show you what the next mod for the HELLCAT actually is. So we'll see you guys back at the house. Alright, so the infamous next mod for the HELLCAT is, oh yay, lug studs or wheel studs, wherever you want to call them. So these are actually extended wheel studs from Dorman. I ordered these from HHP Racing. They're about 55 bucks, but with having to run this small spacer to get the billet specialty wheels to fit, I actually need to get extended wheel studs because the stock ones barely go through these billet specialty lug nuts. So in order to be safe as possible, I ordered these from HHP Racing. So we're gonna get these into So as you can see, these wheel studs have a flat side in order for them to fit properly in the hub. So I had to take the grinder and grind the corner off of all 10. This is only 9 because I have the other 10th one over there. But I had to grind a flat spot on all of them because actually these Dorman ones that everyone said would fit are trash. They don't actually fit. Well, they fit, they're the right ones, but had to actually grind the little corners off there. So I put tape around the threads just to make sure I don't nick them. All right, guys, so I ended up doing it the ghetto way, the non-recommended way. I put some washers on here, put some anti-seize on the threads, but then I just backed up a lug nut to it and just had that pull the studs through. But as you can see if we can see in there, but my grinding worked. So nothing's rubbing. See, I grinded that back side off, kind of hard to see. But I grinded that back side off so you can see nothing's rubbing now. So this hub is done. Now we just got to do the passenger side. All right, so as I was assembling this back on, I noticed the brake pads have this little extra lip on there, meaning that the rotor is not going all the way to the edge. So the brake pad sits like that, and it means the rotor is not getting completely to the edge, which means that the caliper is not seated all the way down. And what I think it is this little extra groove right here needs to be flattened out on the spindle. So I'm gonna take a grinder and kind of smooth these out so that they match the rest of the spindle. And that should allow the caliper to seat a little bit closer because this groove is about as large as the groove on the brake pads. So I'm gonna smooth those out and hopefully that'll help the brake pads wear evenly. So we'll smooth these out, assemble everything back on, and then probably, I guess, have to drive the car around before I can notice if the brake pads are evenly wearing again. So I'm gonna grind these down a little bit. All right, so I took very little off, smoothed it out just a little bit, and then I threw some black paint on there just to protect it against rusting. So once that dries, then we can remount this caliper and get this wheel set up. Wheel spacers, so I'm not gonna put it back together right now. I'm going to clean off these rotors and actually paint these center parts because they rust to shit after only like a few times of hanging them outside. So I don't know if you can see the rears. I need to do the rears also. Probably can't see them. There's so much bling in here. I can kind of see them back there. So I've got some surface rust on them, so I'll get to the rears eventually. But since I already have the fronts off right now, I'm gonna go get some scuff pads, like a green Scotch-Brite, something like that, or some steel wool. Scuff these up, tape off, obviously the actual rotor part, and then I'll paint these with some high temp VHT paint. So we'll go pick some of that up right now. So I got some steel wool to scuff these up and then some VHT flame-proof paint because I'll be shooting flames all day. So let's get this started. All right, guys, so I was actually able to get the wheel studs on. What I had to do was I actually had to undo the caliper from back here because what I would do before is actually I could get the rotor back on with the caliper still on, but with the extended wheel studs, I couldn't figure out how to get the rotor back in there. So what I actually had to do is remove the caliper, the 2 nuts from the studs. That way your bracket stays torqued down to the spindle. And now we do have extended wheel studs in the front. And like I said, I did paint the rotors. They're already dirty because my hands were all over them, but they look a lot better. than all that surface rust crap that was on there. So I need to still do the rears, and I'll do those another day when I've got some more time. But I officially have extended wheel studs in the front with the rotors, and I painted them black so they're nice and clean, no more surface rust. And I'm still gonna wait on the smaller spacer because it's not the safest thing to run a spacer. So if you have to run one as small as possible. So it's gonna be about half this size. But the good thing is, if I do need to put that spacer back on and the 3mm doesn't work, I do have extended wheel studs, which makes it a lot safer. And I do have the open-ended lug nuts for the extended wheel studs. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Make sure you guys always comment, like, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Snapchat at Bambi39, and we'll see you guys on the next one.